This is the Troll Patrol, live with JustinFREAKIN.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol Live, where I was in such a hurry, I didn't even realize I didn't put on a bandana. I went out today, didn't wear a bandana or anything, just had the hair pulled back in a ponytail, enjoying that it's long enough to do a ponytail again. We'll just go with it. I was in a hurry. There's a lot of news. There's a lot of news to be getting to. Dustin, good evening. Princess Kimberly, anonymously. Yeah, you probably don't want to watch the horror show that is the Troll Patrol. Curiouser and I went to the weed store a little bit ago. I got extremely high. Got so high I forgot to put on a bandana. So maybe I'm high enough for this shit. Let's see, what have I got on the menu for you tonight? Measles. I got measles on the menu. There was an explosion in Hawaii on some beachfront property. A teacher was caught giving out test-enhancing pills. My lord, good evening. Got video of a frozen Buick. A boss and an employee got into a scuffle in the parking lot of their McDonald's. The boss shoots his employee. It's just another day in mass shooting PA. A Pennsylvania hospital. These multiple people shot. Man needs our help. He's asking for donations to fight the feds who are coming after him for threatening Elon Musk. Elon also threatening a congressman who called him a dick. Oh, also he called an astronaut a slur. People are really starting to turn on the MAGA movement. I got a few different examples. A call from C-SPAN. Congressman Town Hall. Trump went one-on-one with the governor of Maine. A man was fired after an outstanding employment review. Of course, we've got the new DOGE directive that they had to fill out over the weekend. 5 reasons. This is all federal employees, apparently. 5 reasons or 5 things they accomplished in the last week. And if they didn't respond to the email, they're going to be fired tomorrow. Say what you want about Elizabeth Warren, but her grandson died trying to save our lives. We've got a new projected German chancellor. I'm going to show you the scene outside of the AFD. Israeli tanks have entered the West Bank. Wild drone footage of the Hamas prisoner release that took place on Saturday. Zelensky says he is willing to step down if it will get Ukraine and NATO or in the war. Steve Witkoff, the man that has been credited with getting us a ceasefire in Gaza, can't name a single concession that Russia would have to make. Trump fired the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, as well as a bunch of military lawyers. All that and a lot freaking more tonight on the Troll Patrol Live. Good evening, my lord. Fuck OnlyFans. Why would we fuck OnlyFans? OnlyFans is awesome. Well, it's probably a little exploitive. It could be better towards its workers. But that's any capitalistic endeavor. But all in all, I would say OnlyFans is a net positive. Probably, maybe, I don't know. I know, my lord. I was just fucking with you. I play stupid sometimes just for comedic effect. For comedic effect. This was raspberry gelato. That's what I got. It was the bottom shelf of the strains. Oh shit. But because I like raspberry, I got the raspberry gelato. Woman in the store was having a grand old time. She was watching Kim Possible on the TV, smoking a joint, laughing her ass off. I'm like, she's in here living the life. At the weed store, smoking weed all day, watching cartoons. That's where it's at. That's the kind of job I want. Smoke weed all day. Oh, wait a minute. It's literally the kind of job I have. Smoke weed every day. I don't know. Maybe it's where I was smoking other things already today before I went and got it. We went and got it late in the day. I don't taste it. I kind of cleaned out the bowl. No, but we smoked something else out of it before we got this. Which was like the top shelf from a different store. Was what I was smoking out of it. And Lord was going to clean his room, but then he got high. Ooh. Oh my God, don't let me sing. All right, light one up, tip one back. Let's do the news. Tell Warlord to come in here. I shaved my head. I can probably get away with it. I shaved my head, Warlord. Kind of looks like it. A little. Maybe. I know I said I would, but I don't want to. Just throwing that out there. Who is the next Chancellor of Germany? Let's meet the dude. It's the Conservative Party. They apparently did not launch the AFD into power, which I didn't figure they would. But they do represent like a shift rightward in German politics.
It is the end of the road for Chancellor Olaf Scholz. He'll most likely be replaced by this man, Friedrich Merz. His Conservatives won the most votes today. At the age of 69, Merz is about to take his first job in government. He faces an anemic economy, a war raging in Europe, and Donald Trump in the White House. Now, this election also marked a historic rise in support for the far right. The alternative,
DJ Dub,
the AFD, won 20%. That's twice as much as the last election. They're headed for the opposition because no one wants to work with them, but their support, their power, they're growing. Tonight, they remain Germany's political pariah, but for how much longer? I'm Brent Goff in Berlin. This is The Day.
do 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 do.
We have
Brent Goff.
this election. This is a bitter election result for the Social Democratic Party. This is also an election defeat.
We've achieved a historic result. The Alternative for Germany is now the second biggest party.
Tonight, we celebrate. Tomorrow morning, we'll get to work.
To our viewers watching on PBS in the United States and to all of you around the world, welcome.
What a tie.
Election day here.
I'd wear it.
And this is what we know. There will be a new chancellor, most likely the head of the Conservatives, Friedrich Merz. His task of building a new government will be a challenge worthy of Superman. And that has a lot to do with the party that he has sworn not to work with, the far-right AFD. The AFD received 20% of the votes, doubling its support in this election. Yet the AFD remain political kryptonite, the party no one wants to govern with. Let's get right in with the projected numbers right now. The Social Democrats losing heavily from last time, around with only 16%. The Conservatives, they picked up some support. They finish top with just under 29%. The Greens at just under 12%. The liberal Free Democrats failing to make that crucial 5% cutoff. They crash out of parliament.
Oh, wow.
The AFD, as we said, doubling their support in this election. And the Left Party, they get close to 9%, also unexpected. Now, that means the Conservatives here in black get the most seats, followed by the AFD, and then the Social Democrats, the Greens, and the Left Party are also in the new parliament. So Friedrich Merz is the man most likely to replace the current Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Both men have been addressing their supporters. Take a listen.
I want to say a big thank you to all the voters who placed their trust in us and in me personally. I understand the responsibility and I understand the size of the tasks that lie ahead of us. I have deep respect for this, and I know it will not be easy. I also want to say a word of respect to our political opponents. We fought a very tough election campaign. But this election campaign was absolutely necessary to discuss the big and important topics that affect our country.
Mr. Bowles.
Economic policy, migration, foreign policy and security, domestic security. But now we'll talk to each other. The main thing
He looks like a
is to establish
merc.
a government in Germany that's capable of acting as quickly as possible with a good parliamentary majority. Dear friends, the world out there is not waiting for us. This is a bitter election result for the Social Democratic Party, and it's also an election defeat. I think that must be made perfectly clear in light of the results. And it's important for me to say that after this result, we have to be united going forward.
Holiday.
The election result was better, and I had some responsibility for that. This time, the result is bad, and therefore, I also have responsibility for that. I want to make that clear. It's also important for me to offer my congratulations to the Conservatives and their leader Friedrich Merz on his mandate to form the next government. Congratulations for the election result.
And the conversation continues here in the studio at the big table. To my far right is Benjamin
It's a very nice table.
Democratic Strategy Initiative here in Berlin. And right here beside me is our chief political correspondent, Nina Hauser. To both of you, good to have you with us. Nina, let me start with you. It's a given now that Friedrich Merz is going to be the next chancellor, right?
At this point in time, I'm very reluctant to say anything is a given, but yes, if you look at the numbers, Friedrich Merz does look set to become Germany's next chancellor, but he will have to form a coalition with junior partners or a junior partner. So coalition negotiations are going to take a bit of time still, and technically speaking, there are other options also where other chancellors could get into power, but that is almost out of the question now. So, yeah.
And Ben, Olaf Scholz, the current chancellor, he conceded defeat tonight, says he will not be leading coalition negotiations with the Conservatives. Is he finished as a political force?
Yes, I think so. As he himself said, he takes responsibility for this defeat. It's a pretty conclusive judgment on his signature policy, the so-called Zeitenwende, which was supposed to deliver meaningful change for Germany.
United Support leaders did that shit.
Points that it sought to achieve.
All right, we are going to look at what a Merz government would look like in just a moment. But first, here's a look at the man of the moment himself.
This is the man of the moment. Friedrich Merz just led the conservative CDU-CSU to their first election victory since the Merkel years.
The world won't wait for us. It won't wait for long, drawn-out coalition negotiations. We must be capable of acting again quickly so that we can do the right thing in Germany, so that we're present again in Europe, and so that the world sees Germany has a reliable government again.
Zuverlässig regiert. His pledge? A U-turn on migration and the economy. His style? Decisive, say his followers. Uncompromising, even abrasive, say his critics. Trump-like at times.
Trump-like at times.
If I'm elected to be the Chancellor of Germany, on my first day in office, I will instruct the Federal Ministry of the Interior, using the Chancellor's authority to issue directives, to permanently control all Germany's national borders with its neighbours.
Dauerhaft zu kontrollieren.
That reaction to a deadly stabbing by an Afghan asylum seeker saw him take a political risk. He crossed his own red line by allowing the far-right AfD, for the first time in German post-war history, to become the deciding factor in securing a majority in parliament. Tens of thousands took to the street in protest. Even Angela Merkel condemned his decision to accept AfD votes rather than seek compromise with other parties at the centre.
From my point of view, even under difficult conditions, it should not come to the point where majorities are achieved with the help of the AfD.
While Merz's political manoeuvre remained unpopular, his determination to act on migration struck a chord.
BB girl
continued to believe his pledge to rule out any future cooperation with the far right.
We will not cooperate with the party that calls itself the Alternative for Germany.
Friedrich Merz is in many ways the opposite.
Josephus, good evening.
Their parallel rise to the top of the conservative CDU party in the 90s and early 2000s turned into a political feud when Merkel beat him to become parliamentary party leader. Frustrated, Merz left politics altogether and made his fortune as a lawyer and board member for the American
that sounds right.
BlackRock, a career he sees as an asset. Critics fault him for his lack of experience in government, and Merz appears to feel most comfortable talking business. Addressing the global top brass of investors at the World Economic Forum in Davos, he left no doubt over his plans to reform Germany's welfare system.
We have to bring our labor market in order. We have this special sort of subsidies for people who are not working called Bürgergeld, which is a big mistake.
Burger guilt.
Change the system.
Throughout his campaign, Merz raised the alarm over the state of the German economy.
And doping well.
Merz also promises to redefine German leadership, while the outgoing administration shared Merkel's mantra of leading from behind. Merz vows to turn Germany from what he calls a sleeping to a leading middle power.
The overarching maxim of a conservative-led government will be, you can rely on Germany again.
Merz's Germany is
for what?
Message will instantly be put to the test by Europe's struggle to define a common response towards the new Trump administration and its disruptive take on Ukraine. His analysis of this new reality is sober.
Today, we're not sure anymore if the Americans are still by our side the way they were after 1945, and if we can still rely on them.
As incoming leader of Europe's largest economy, Merz knows all eyes are on him over whether Germany is ready to take a lead. Friedrich Merz's election victory will drastically change Germany's political outlook. But there are two factors that will determine how much he will be able to translate into action, how complicated forming a government coalition will become, and what Donald Trump will do next. The uncompromising Friedrich Merz will have to compromise fast.
Ben, let me ask you, what speaks for, what speaks against the personality of Friedrich Merz as Chancellor?
Well, what speaks for is we've seen in the very first TV appearance he's given since the election results, talking very clearly about the fact we can't rely on the US as an ally. He's clearly understood the situation there, talked about the need for independence. He's not shied away from big issues like a nuclear deterrent for Europe, the need to gun up in Europe, the need to actually protect Ukraine. That's a decisive character. It speaks to an assertive character, which is the kind of leader that Germany and Europe could certainly benefit from in the Trump era. We have, however, seen him speak on a number of different issues in taking different positions on them. So we don't quite know which Merz is going to turn up, but I think we will find out in the course of his chancellery.
And Nina, the turnout tonight, what was it, 83, 84%? Huge. We've seen
that's what she said.
In the past can be very difficult, but with this type of turnout, and you could argue you do have a mandate to get something done here. Is that going to put pressure on parties to take responsibility and to do something for the country?
Absolutely. I mean, this country is politicized as it hasn't been for the last 30 years. So this is, I believe, the biggest turnout that we've seen since 1990. So, you know, a massive amount of people really going to the polls and making it very clear that they want their voices to be heard. A lot of it had to do, of course, with that very fierce debate about migration that we had, with AfD voters going to the polls, making it clear, okay, we must pursue a very hardline policy, if something fundamental has to change. But equally, on the other side, a party like the Left Party managed to mobilize huge amounts of
highest voter turnout in Germany in 35 years.
Let the AfD get too strong. So, of course, now it all comes down to just how the Bundestag will, what the Bundestag will look like ultimately, how many parties are going to be in. And even Friedrich Merz is hoping that the FDP, so his natural coalition partner, doesn't make it into parliament, because that would make coalition forming more difficult.
All right. Well, forming a government, of course, is complicated by the insistence of all the parties that they will not work with the AfD. We're going to have more on that in just a moment.
Not us. We're moving on to other foreign affairs. Let me show you the scene outside the AfD, though, before we move on. This is a few hours ago, following the election results. The results were like mid-afternoon for us here in the U.S. Protests erupted. Outside of the AfD, you can see the protesters. Something fascistic. Uns kein. So they took to the street before they, even really got started. This is the first time the AfD is going to be represented in Parliament. So, you know, they're trying to nip it in the bud before they really get going. But, you know, sometimes the protest just leads to galvanizing the supporters, and it doesn't work out. I'm not saying you shouldn't protest, though. You absolutely should. I don't fucking know. I'm feeling very cynical at the moment. Israeli tanks have entered the West Bank. In Judea and Samaria, our forces are moving deep into the refugee camp. They destroy terrorist infrastructures, eliminate terrorists, and they will stay there as long as necessary. Yesterday, the Minister of Defense and I instructed our commanders to clear up the refugee camp in Quabata. For the first time in decades in Judea and Samaria, tanks have entered. This means one thing: we fight terrorism by all means and everywhere. Referring to the territory as its biblical name, which it is not. They're doing West Bank now. They have officially entered into an incursion in the West Bank, though they have been carrying out raids in the West Bank for weeks now. I'm going to hit the content warning before we watch this. This is drone footage showing the release of Israeli hostages that took place yesterday in Gaza. There's actually footage of the like little ceremony they held. I totally booked my. Here we go.
هذه المنطقة الجنوبية لفرقة غزة وهي عملت
There you can see him sitting up for the ceremony. Bagheera, good evening. The hostages sure do look happy. They look like they just won an award or some shit. What a surreal scene. You can see it being handed over to the Red Cross volunteers. It does make perfect sense, DJ Dub. Is Hamas escorting them out of the Gaza Strip? This is the Qassam Brigade. This is another scene from the ceremony we saw. mean, that's pretty accurate. Definitely into that painting of BB. This is according to Dropsite News. The Qassam brigades and their resistance were keen to respect the sanctity of the dead and the feelings of their families during the ceremony of the handing over the bodies of the prisoners, even though the occupation army did not respect their lives when they were alive. We preserved the lives of the occupation prisoners, provided them with what we could, and treated them humanely, but their army killed them along with their captors. They're talking about the bodies that they handed over a few days ago. The Zionist enemy army killed its prisoners by bombing their detention centers. The Nazi occupation government bears full responsibility after repeatedly obstructing the exchange agreement. The Brit? What are you talking about, M-Lord? What did we let a Brit in here? Who let a Brit in here? Is Bagheera British? I thought Bagheera was American. Bagheera, are you British? Zelensky is offering to resign from office if Ukraine can enter NATO or if it will bring an end to the war.
And a second question.
Energy Flow, good evening.
The pressure from Moscow to step aside and Washington to hold elections. Would you be willing to give up the presidency if it meant peace for Ukraine? Thank you.
Yes, I'll start with the latter.
Do you speak English, motherfucker?
To leave for the sake of peace, I'm ready to do so. Number two, I can swap.
Oh, this is in Kiev though, so okay, I can forgive him. But he was asked a question in English, and he was responding for an English audience, I believe.
If you really need me to leave for the sake of peace, I'm ready to do so. Number two, I can swap this for NATO membership, if this is a condition, just so that we don't dwell on it too long. I am focused on security for Ukraine today, not in 20 years' time, and I'm not going to hang around in power for decades. This is my focus and this is my dream. As for security guarantees, since you mentioned NATO, I will continue on NATO if you don't mind. Look, I think NATO is the cheapest option, and that's true, and I'm sorry to keep repeating this. In any case, whoever wants this or not, whoever supports this idea or not, this topic is on the table, and for the sake of security at the talks, this will be there. In any format, in any event, it will be on the table.
He is determined to join NATO.
We will discuss this with partners, probably. It is important. It is important for all of us to understand that it isn't the table of negotiations Ukraine is not invited to. It is our table, because the war in Ukraine is our war. And we are inviting European leaders because we are an integral part of this continental European Union in future. So Europe is absolutely at the table, and I believe it is fair for Europe to be represented in the broader sense than just the European Union, because it is Europe. Great Britain, for example, as a strong partner, as an example.
Those damn Brits.
Without them. The United States must be there because they are our main donor, our main helper in this war compared to each separate country of Europe, and not only Europe. We have friendly Japan as well.
Friendly Japan
has given most of all. It is equal to
Kinsai.
Union's explanation. And so absolutely the United States, and we want to end the war, and partners want Russia to be there, and Russia will be there. So there, we regard the negotiating table as Ukraine, as part of Europe, America, the United States of America, and Russia. So there. What do I want of Donald Trump? I think if I should believe what he says, the same thing as he does, I want an end to the war. We absolutely coincide, and I believe he wants an end to the war, and that he will help us end this war. But peace through strength means, first of all, strength against Russia. I think that is the meaning of peace through strength. We are partners, and I want him on our side. I don't want this to be just mediation, because it means it seems that would be not enough. We are grateful for bipartisan support. We are grateful to both administrations, because this is the lifetime of two administrations that this war is ongoing. And I'm grateful for the support. It is important, this support. First,
You're just rambling now.
we are supported by the previous decisions of the United States Congress due to the delays in the process, and that's nothing new. I'm not going to dwell on it. You know about it. There is something on the way. But 100 billion in aid from the United States, not 500, not 350, not 250, 100 billion was received by Ukraine, and we are very grateful for that. And the bill for this war is 320, 100 from Ukraine, 100 from Europe, Japan 15 billion, and 100 from the United States. So that's the economics of this tragedy. I would very much like Trump to understand me, for us to understand each other, to understand what security guarantees Ukraine needs. This is to enable Ukraine to be strong at the negotiating table. Security guarantees are necessary. I would like to talk to him about a contingent, the presence of a contingent at the end of the hot war, and we are ready to discuss this with colleagues from the European Union and the broader Europe, and also with the President of the United States. Security
I
guarantees.
don't think the president wants you involved in the negotiations.
And there's a lot being talked about that, not just an agreement, but an economic agreement between our states as part of security guarantees. So it needs to be security guarantees there from the United States. Have I invited Donald Trump? I always invited. I would like him to be in Ukraine. Kellogg was here, and Secretary of the Treasury, and many senators, congressmen visit us frequently. I would like him to visit. We haven't succeeded in making it happen yet, but that would be good, but I can also go to Washington, and that will be meaningful.
You've been to Washington many times, sir. I know, because I've seen it. Steve Witkoff, who has been credited with the Gaza ceasefire, is one of the envoys to Ukraine. He cannot name a single concession that he would have Russia pull out, agree to.
Has been putting a lot of pressure on Ukrainian President Zelensky, as you just noted, and laying out the concessions Ukraine will have to make to end the war. What concessions will Russia have to make?
Well, I think in any peace deal, each side is going to make concessions, whether it's territorial concessions, whether it's economic concessions. I think there's a whole array of things that happen in a deal, and you'll see concessions from both sides, and that's the president's, that's what he does best. He brings people together. He gets them to understand that the pathway to peace is concessions and consensus building. And I think you're going to see a very successful result here. We've been struggling with this conflict for 3.5 years. No different than Gaza. The president has basically said to himself, we need something more purposeful. What we've been doing in the past has not worked. Now it's time to get something to work. And if we get something...
Has been putting a lot of pressure on Ukrainian President Zelensky, as you just noted.
Really went in circles there. Didn't answer the question, did he? Seemed pretty straightforward. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, who I'm still flabbergasted by the fact that his name is literally Mark Wayne, all one word. Mark Wayne Mullen was on Meet the Press this morning. The senator from Oklahoma.
Let me zoom out and ask you big picture. Do you think the United States should stay in NATO, Senator?
You know, if it's in our interest, I absolutely do. But right now, NATO has not always been playing in our best interest. And when it's not in Americans' best interest anymore, then we should relook at things. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. We see NATO and we see UN sometimes weaponizing against the United States. And
my name is Mullins. His name is Mullen. No relation, no worries.
We're the biggest funder of it. And if it's not in the taxpayers' best interest, if it's not in Americans' foreign policy best interest, then we need to look at a different approach.
The United States has historically determined that it is in the United States' best security interest.
Historically.
President Zelensky himself has said he believes that Russian troops are amassing potentially in Belarus, could be potentially eyeing the possibility of going into other NATO nations. Can European members and NATO count on the United States and President Trump to help defend them if they are attacked by Russia, Senator?
Oh, my God, Holiday.
First of all, I don't believe for a second Russia is going to advance a war in any other country right now. It'd be extremely dangerous, and he will call President Trump's hand. President Trump does not just simply say idle words. He delivers it. We saw what happened in Syria. Keep in mind, in Syria, he told Russia to stay out of it in 2017. They went ahead and helped Assad, and they delivered chemical weapons on their own people. What did President Trump do within 30 minutes? He kicked Russia out of the airspace and completely destroyed their airfield that they were operating underneath. Russia and Putin fears President Trump.
She just hissed at him.
Thanks for watching. Stay up.
Shut up, Lester.
News and top stories on the...
Did you guys hear that she hissed at him? I mean, I can't blame her.
Delivered chemical weapons on their own people. What did President Trump do within 30 minutes? He kicked Russia out of the airspace and completely destroyed their airfield that they were operating underneath. Russia and Putin fears President Trump.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app.
Shut up, Lester.
Social media.
Oh, my God. This all coming as Russia is launching a record number of drones into Ukraine. Launching 269?
267 drones into Ukraine.
Oh, 267.
That's about 79
Saturday night.
more than the last all-time high record, which was set in November. This record-setting number of drones coming into Ukraine, largely being defended against by Ukraine's air defense systems, comes just a night after General Keith Kellogg, President Trump's envoy to the Ukraine war, left Kyiv with promising movement towards a U.S.-Ukraine deal.
Was that her name?
Rights. It also comes shortly before the third-year anniversary of the full-scale invasion by Russia, which will be on Monday.
Lenny, good evening.
67 drones into Ukraine on Saturday night. That's about 79 more than the last all-time high record, which...
Caitlin Doorknobs. Dornbos. You did, but I mean, it does look like doorknobs. It's amazing I didn't call her Caitlin Doorknobs. No worries. The U.S. is totally all put together, ready to aid a world in crisis if need be. I'm sure Trump didn't just fire the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and a whole bunch of military lawyers that we might need.
Millions of federal workers are waking up to renewed pressure this morning. Elon Musk ordered them late Saturday to describe the top 5 things they accomplished last week or risk losing their jobs. That demand was issued formally in an email yesterday from the Office of Personnel Management. But top leaders,
we're going to get to that story here in a second.
The FBI and the State Department have instructed their staff to avoid responding for now. Just a day earlier, the Trump staff shakeup hit the Pentagon with the ouster of the nation's highest-ranking military officer, General C.Q. Brown, and other senior leaders at the Navy, Army, and Air Force. For more on that impact of the shakeup, we begin this morning with our senior national security correspondent, Charlie D'Agata. Charlie, so it's the president's prerogative to choose his advisors, sure. But what's the impact of firing his top advisor, and when will we get a new one?
Well, Margaret, you first of all have to look at what's going on at the moment, right? What's the immediate impact? This position as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is in charge, as it sounds, of everybody and planning forward. We have the crisis in the Middle East that's still unfolding. We've got the crisis where more and more active duty troops are being sent to.
Nice noggers.
Is getting built up. And then you've got Ukraine and the future of NATO. So this comes at a critical time, and the dismissal of C.Q. Brown will have immediate ramifications. In terms of how long it's going to take to replace that, well, there will be a sort of Senate hearing. A person has already been put forward, as we're about to speak about. But in addition to that, the other top head to come out of that was Admiral Lisa Franchetti, so CNO, Chief Naval Officer, in charge of the Navy. That's a big one.
Highest-ranking woman.
The highest-ranking woman, and unprecedented in that role. And she was the first to become a fleet commander. There are many firsts in Admiral Franchetti's career, and we've profiled her when she became a fleet commander. Very highly thought of among among personnel at the DOD, including young women who aspire to those sort of levels. C.Q. Brown, again, very...
she looks like a Rachel Dratch character.
There was no reason given for the dismissal of these two individuals. Yeah. We do know that Secretary Hegseth has actually name-checked C.Q. Brown as saying that he's criticizing him for his DEI programs and saying that was he given that promotion because he was black? He says we'll never know. He also took aim at Admiral Franchetti, suggesting she is a DEI hire herself by virtue of the fact that she is a woman. Also, in addition to that, there's the second in command of the Air Force who was also removed. So a lot of changes, and you mentioned the word purge, and that's exactly what it is from the very top.
Well, who is this nominee, or I guess in the process of becoming the nominee to step into the role?
It's a good question, and there are a lot of people inside the DOD who are asking who this nominee is. Retired Lieutenant General Dan Kane. He just retired recently. He's a 3-star rank. That's kind of important because this is the first time, at least in my knowledge, it might be corrected, the first time a 3-star general was promoted to that position.
Right.
Kind of
not the head of a combatant command.
Exactly, not the head of a combatant command like CENTCOM or EUCOM, not in charge of one of the armed services branches. Well, yes, some might call it a leapfrog. If he is to be accepted into this role, he will automatically be given that 4th star. But more importantly, there are certain rules and regulations that he would have been the first because he didn't have that combatant command and because he wasn't in charge of one of the armed forces. But from, we've been asking around, and I know people who know him personally, they say, look, he's a stand-up guy, nicest man you want to meet. There had been some questions about whether or not he was sort of political. I know that President Trump had said that he had met the guy and said that he loves him, as in he loves Trump.
What?
According to my sources, that conversation didn't take place. He doesn't own a MAGA cap. He didn't put one on. So he's been described as apolitical. And he's somebody who may not have the experience, but has the character to lead the force. But I think what we have to look at here, right? We got Defense Secretary Hegseth, and then we have this individual, 2 relatively inexperienced people at the very highest level of the DoD.
At a time of global instability and a lot of change here.
Hey, what could go wrong?
Thank you.
Charlie Daggett on Face the Nation. She mentioned the directive sent out by Elon Musk that employees at the federal government needed to respond to an email before Monday if they didn't want to be fired. That directive remains unclear for federal workers.
President Donald Trump took to social media to post memes pointed at federal workers today. He posted a SpongeBob meme on Truth Social, poking fun at the controversy surrounding looming cuts for more federal workers. Now, this comes after multiple federal agencies were caught off guard by an email sent out from Trump aide Elon Musk, demanding employees explain what they accomplished during the work week. Many agencies have told their workers not to respond to the directive, but Musk says a non-reply will be taken as a resignation. Here's more from ABC's Selena Wang.
Workers across the federal government receiving an email this weekend with an ultimatum. Explain what you've done or resign. The email coming from the Office of Personnel Management at the direction of Elon Musk. Musk initially posting on X, all federal employees will shortly receive an email requesting to understand what they got done.
I hate this piece of shit so much.
Respond will be taken as a resignation. Sources tell ABC the emails ask employees to...
I saw somebody share out the Tesla stock price and said everyone should email him back, or all the Tesla shareholders should email him and be like, hey, Elon, what did you do last week?
5 bullet points of what they've accomplished in the last week. The deadline to respond is tomorrow night. Sources tell ABC that many federal law enforcement agencies are urging employees to use caution or hold off responding, especially because of the sensitive nature of their work. Newly installed FBI Director Kash Patel told FBI employees to pause any responses to the Musk email. But acting U.S. Attorney in D.C. Ed Martin was one of the few senior officials in government to encourage his employees to respond to the email, writing to his office that this is a good opportunity for us all to continue to recognize and promote the importance of our work. Utah Republican Senator John Curtis appearing on CBS saying while cuts need to be made, he doesn't think federal employees should be treated this way.
These are real people. These are real lives. These are mortgages. It's a false narrative to say we have to cut and you have to be cruel to do it as well. We can do both.
Maryland Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen also appearing on CBS, suggesting Musk does not have the authority to require employees to answer those questions.
Stupid chainsaw.
Article 4 in the Constitution that gives Elon Musk that authority. And the way that he's been sort of, quote, delegated this authority is illegal. And the actions he's taking are illegal.
President Trump has not commented publicly on the email, but early Saturday posted on social media saying Elon is doing
I'm high as fuck.
But I would like to see him get more aggressive. ABC News has reached out to the White House for comment. Selena Wang, ABC News, Washington.
The Trump administration is placing all USAID employees in the United States and around the world on administrative leave, with the exception of certain designated personnel. The administrative leave will take effect 1 minute before midnight tonight.
Well, there have been a number of these stories from several news agencies across the country. This is from a Salt Lake Veterans Affairs worker. But this story is common across many different cities. This is a Salt Lake City Veterans Affairs worker fired for performance after receiving an outstanding review.
I got the email about an hour after I left for the day, didn't see it till the next morning, that I was still in my probationary period and that my employment with VA has been terminated.
A federal worker here in Salt Lake City speaking out exclusively to 2 News after he was let go in the latest round of federal workforce cuts.
We have team coverage tonight on these federal layoffs happening across the state. Leslie Duarte live for us at the IRS building in Ogden. Brian Malahy getting reaction from Utah's elected leaders.
We begin with Brian Will, who spoke to that veteran today and joins us live from where he worked at the VA. And Brian, what makes this case unique?
Good evening, Heidi and Mark. Gregory House worked at the VA behind me and was just 6 weeks shy of completing his probationary period, but was let go citing performance reasons, even after getting a glowing review from his boss.
As a disabled veteran who gets most of my medical care at the VA in Salt Lake City, I felt like I was giving back to this community.
Gregory House served 4 years in the United States Navy before returning home.
I moved to Utah to be closer to family. At that point, I went to the U, got my undergraduate in communications, and I knew at that point that the job I wanted was public affairs at the VA.
After earning his master's degree, House landed his dream job in public affairs at the VA in Salt Lake City in March 2024.
It's not particularly easy to get into a job like this, whether you're in government or in the private sector.
House earned numerous incentives, awards, and even got a top-rated performance review from his manager.
He rated me on outstanding on 5 out of 5.
Then, late Thursday night, news came out of Washington, D.C.
You know, I had to find out I was fired from a press release.
He found this email Friday morning.
After skimming through the email and trying to see if it was a joke, trying to just absorb the information, I noticed a line in there that said, due to my performance, the agency has decided that my employment was no longer in the public interest.
What was that feeling when you got that email and found out you no longer had a job?
It was hard. I felt numb. I felt like I was in shock. I didn't know. It felt hard to believe at first. And as the last couple of days have gone by, it started to feel like a betrayal.
So, Brian, we've heard similar stories across the country with people in that probationary period. What's the reaction been like?
Yeah, and have you heard anything from the VA or any lawmakers about what happened?
Yeah, guys, you know, House actually stayed on for a little bit, getting his colleagues up to speed after he was let go, so they knew what he was working on. You guys spent the day reaching out to officials, trying to get reaction and find out more.
I had been sent an email from somebody in HR who I'd never met. This person might be local, they might be in DC, I couldn't tell you, that says I had been terminated.
I set out first to find out who sent the email.
Mr. Spront, good evening.
Tracy Thruitt, the Veteran Affairs Chief Human Capital Officer in Washington, D.C., which is led by the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. I reached back out to her through the same email address. No phone numbers or emails are publicly available or listed on their website. I also made calls to the VA's office and reached out to the Department of Government Efficiency.
Well, they're understaffed.
Brian from KUTV. Then I reached out to Governor Spencer Cox, Utah Senators Mike Lee and John Curtis, and our Utah congressional representatives. I asked them if they were aware of this situation and many like it happening across the state.
Hello, and thank you for calling VA Media Relations.
And how does this align with the government's commitment to supporting and honoring military veterans, particularly when it seems to undermine their career prospects?
It's almost like we're full of shit.
Now, as of this broadcast, I have yet to hear back from any of those officials, but we'll update you as we hear back. Reporting live outside the VA, Brian Will, KUTV 2 News.
I think this is just the start of the people that are going to be jobless as a result of Trump's policies. The Boston mayor was apparently threatened by border czar Tom Homan about ICE immigration enforcement.
Well, Jen, this has become a war of words between the border czar, Boston's police commissioner, as well as Boston's mayor. And this all came about this weekend when Tom Homan was addressing a conservative group in Washington.
The police commissioner of Boston, you said you doubled down on not helping the law enforcement officers of ICE. I'm coming to Boston. I'm bringing hell with me.
It's pretty clueless for someone
bringing hell.
Our police commissioner.
Mayor Michelle Wu is defending the city's police commissioner after Michael Cox made comments on WCVB's On the Record when it comes to holding undocumented immigrants.
We don't care about your immigration status. But what we do care about is, are you a victim of crime in our city, or are you a victimizer? Right? So we will hold you accountable for that. And that doesn't matter what your immigration status is.
Take that badge off your chest, put it in the desk drawer, because you became a politician. You forgot what it's like to be a cop.
We want to be sure to very clearly say Boston is welcoming and safe for everyone.
On Sunday at a Vietnamese Lunar New Year celebration, the
Michael, good evening.
Fear was on the minds of those who help newly arrived immigrants and refugees across Boston.
It's really scary for many of our community.
Juan Bui came to Boston from Vietnam almost 20 years ago. She is now a Vietnamese American and is trying to calm others who have recently arrived in America.
They stop going to activity. They stop going to the store. They have to ask for help from some of the people that they know so that they can help them so that they just don't be out there in the public.
It's not clear if or when border czar Tom Homan is coming to Boston, but the mayor assures the nation her city's police force is going to keep people safe.
Anytime there are criminal warrants issued
He's coming to get you.
Of government, they are honored. Boston Police follows through, and we enforce.
At this afternoon's news conference, Mayor Wood did clarify that Boston police can't enforce civil detainer orders since the state's highest court ruled on that years ago. But she does plan on taking that question as many other topics when she appears before Congress early next month. We're live in Alston. I'm Ted Wayman, WCVB News Center 5.
The NCAA has complied immediately.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was muted. My apologies. Border czar Tom Homan, which I thought we always had. I thought the czar thing originated with Fox News as an attempt to mock Obama administration officials. But somehow, some way, we've ended up with an actual czar as a position in our government. That's wild. Border czar Tom Homan beefing with the mayor of Boston. Donnie Boy Trump is beefing with the governor of Maine. This was at a White House address to governors.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well,
Down here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one.
That should be a real easy one. It played the whole clip, didn't it? Did we get the whole thing? I was taking my hair down.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand.
It's over the...
Is the Maine here? The
trans pole vaulter.
Down here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, Your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports, so you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. Every state, the NCAA.
I mean, that sounds like a threat. And it's totally not worrying that the Trump administration has shut down the national database on documenting police misconduct. The database, first proposed by Trump in 2020, it was his own proposal. Donald Trump's second presidential administration shut down a national database that tracked misconduct by federal police, a resource that policing reform advocates held as essential to prevent officers with misconduct records from being able to move undetectable between agencies. The National Law Enforcement Accountability Database, NELED, which stored police records documenting misconduct, is now unavailable. The U.S. Justice Department also confirmed the database's elimination in a statement issued online. A web link that hosted the database is no longer active. The police misconduct database, the first of its kind, was not publicly available. Law enforcement agencies could use the NLED to check if an officer applying for a law enforcement position had committed misconduct, such as excessive force. Several experts celebrated the NLED when Joe Biden first created it by an executive order issued in 2023, the third year of his presidency. But Trump has since rescinded Biden's executive order as part of an ongoing effort to slash federal agencies down. Trump himself initially proposed the database after the police murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis in 2020, months before Biden defeated him in the presidential election that November.
Come on, man.
Americans apparently are starting to turn on Trump. The honeymoon period is over with the MAGA, apparently.
There is growing backlash against President Trump over his sweeping federal layoffs and Elon Musk's drive to cut government spending, leaving voters in red districts furious over the cuts. Some speaking out during a town hall hosted by Republican Congressman Rich McCormick.
We are all
I have that whole clip here in a second.
You're going to hear it and feel it.
This as President Trump defends the work being done by Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency. But polls show voters are concerned about Trump's handling of one of their top issues, inflation, and his campaign pledge to bring down prices on day one. A Washington Post Ipsos poll shows 53% of Americans disapprove
doesn't care about
how the
prices.
president is handling the economy, and a new CNN poll shows 62% say Trump has not done enough to bring prices down. Friday, the president responding.
I have today the highest poll numbers I've ever had. That's what I was just told. And they like the job that we're doing. They like the
mustard yellow tie.
Doing something that a lot of people wouldn't have the courage to do.
Johnny Fernandez, ABC News, New York.
A lot of people wouldn't have the courage to do what he did. You saw the congressman face backlash from his district. This was in deep red Georgia. This was Georgia Congressman Rich McCormick.
Community frustration is building after a town hall with Congressman Rich McCormick got pretty heated. The Georgia Republican addressed community members in Roswell Thursday night in an event that was so packed that the fire marshal had to shut all the doors early. A majority of the people who came into the council chambers were upset with executive orders and proposals coming out of the White
Good evening.
House They pressed the congressman on issues like immigration, health care, and tariffs, along with education. Tensions are high over the president's DOGE program being led by Elon Musk and the recent mass federal firings across the country. The congressman was pressed on the 1,300 job cuts at the CDC here in Atlanta.
If we continue to grow the size of government and we can't afford it, it's going to have shortfalls in your Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and other things that we can't afford, guys. We have to make some decisions. 1,300 people, which you're referring to. A lot of the work they do is duplicitous with AI. Once again, one of the problems we have.
Many of the people that we talked to expressed frustration over what they called non-answers.
The most part, I felt like he really dodged the questions and got sort of annoyed with the amount of energy in the room. I think people are very upset, and I feel like maybe he underestimated how upset we are.
The congressman recently faced backlash over comments he made about the federal aid freeze that could have impacted the school meal programs. He suggested that teenagers should work for their food instead of relying on the government. At Thursday's town hall, he clarified, saying that while he supports the White House's federal cuts, he believes all kids should have access to healthy meals at school.
I mean, if only you were a congressman, you had the power to do something, right? Who knows if this caller is full of shit or not, but this was an enlightening call on C-SPAN.
Yes, ma'am. I'm calling from West Virginia, and which was a red state for Donald Trump, and they have a place called down here Public Debt, and a lot of my neighbors would vote for Trump. They walking around scared, crying, nervous, and they were forever Trumpers. But on a personal note, I'm a diabetic and I'm on Medicare, and when Joe Biden was in there, my insulin was $6 for a 28-day supply. I just went to CVS to get my new supply. It went back up to $80, they said, because the American Recovery Act was canceled. So it went from $6 to $80. So I don't know if anybody else out there on Medicare. And yes, ma'am. I'm calling.
Avalon, good evening. News be doing stupid shit. Like arresting people for peaceful civil a lot. We went to the weed store earlier. We smoked a lot. Civil disobedience. I actually bought the bottom shelf because I liked the name. And it looked pretty. That was one of the things. They've got these they got these jars you look in that have lights on them, right? So I'm looking inside the jar, and the top shelf and the bottom shelf looked exactly the same. So I was like, give me the bottom shelf. Light one up, tip one back. Sissy devil obedience. That's exactly what we're talking about. This former NFL player exercised some sissy devil obedience and got arrested for it. Civil disobedience.
The plaque going up at a California library have thrown a city into the crosshairs of a political controversy. Those words: magical, alluring, galvanizing, and adventurous. The acronym, aka MAGA. Underneath those words is this quote: "Through hope and change, our nation has built back better to the golden era of Make America Great Again." Note the references to Obama's Hope and Change and Biden's Build Back Better, and of course, Trump's MAGA. Well, leaders in Huntington Beach approved the privately financed plaque, but not before one man spoke up against it. Watch.
MAGA stands for resegregation and racism. MAGA stands for censorship and book bans. MAGA stands for firing air traffic controllers while planes are crashing. MAGA stands for firing the people overseeing our nuclear arsenal. MAGA stands
Get ready for the sissy dependency.
them at the VA,
Wait a
including
minute.
canceling research on veteran suicide. MAGA stands for cutting funds to education, including for disabled children. MAGA is profoundly corrupt, unmistakably anti-democracy, and most importantly, MAGA is explicitly a Nazi movement. You may have replaced a swastika with a red hat, but that is what it is. I will now engage in the time-honored American tradition of peaceful civil disobedience.
That's former NFL punter Chris Kluwe. Police carried him off after he approached city council members. Kluwe says he was charged with a misdemeanor and held in custody for about 4 hours. You know what? Chris Kluwe joins me now. Chris, thank you for joining. Everyone has been talking about this moment, and I'm wondering why
He's apparently a punter.
This particular course of action.
Well, first and foremost, it's because the Huntington Beach City Council does not care about the community of Huntington Beach. They've made it very obvious that their goal is to advance their own interests, to rise higher in Trump's sphere of influence. And you can see that by our city attorney, Michael Gates, leaving the city and being appointed to Trump's
the kick the ball person.
That's really a problem when a city council doesn't have its city's best interests in mind.
And why did this particular plaque spur this reaction? More than, say, his leaving?
So for me, it's the fact that...
I didn't actually think the caller was full of shit. No, I totally believe them. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, we've got no way of verifying what they say, though I have heard that drug prices have gone up on many things. I don't know for myself. And I actually saw a report that said, no, the price of insulin hadn't gone up.
As I said, is explicitly a Nazi ideology, and they are coming after trans rights. They're coming after resegregation and racism. Like they are tearing down our government because they can only see power for themselves, and they don't care who they hurt to have to get it. And I feel that a political message like that is...
Babylon, do you want to put it in the
library? And let's face it, public libraries, they are apolitical places.
Whichever show.
No political message on the public library. It's a space for everyone to come in, regardless of your political affiliation.
People have really bristled at the notion of your statement about a MAGA being a, quote, Nazi movement. Some look at this as you painting an extremely broad brush when it comes to describing all of those who supported Trump and voted for him. What's your reaction to those who say that that is a highly offensive decision to even say that that's what you associate MAGA with?
I would say that during there were a lot of very good Germans.
13-12 is not unrealistic for the end of the year if things keep going the way they're going. You say end of Trump's fucking term. I was lucky. I paid $8, $8.50 or something for 18. You're normally, about $5.50, $6, something like that.
Who trusted Hitler and thought he had their best interests in mind. And so they followed him because they believed that he would do the right thing for them. And then in 1946, there were a lot of very good Germans who had a lot of regrets. And I think right now there are a lot of good Americans who think Trump has their best interest in mind. But Trump clearly has his own interests in mind, and he does not care about anyone else. And I would rather not see those people have regrets when the bodies stop falling and the blood stops being shed, because they did the right thing now instead of waiting.
I am not...
I got a friend in Mexico, and he loves it. He moved during COVID.
You really vote throughout the course of your lives with every action that you take. And yet, the rhetoric you talk about and a lot of the criticism that you have for MAGA policies, they were stated before the election. Why do you think that did not resonate with voters?
Because I don't think voters thought that he meant it. Again,
they said that
he was going to do. He explicitly laid out, Jews are the problem. I am going to get rid of them. That will make this country great. Trump has said immigrants are the problem. Trans people are the problem. We are going to get rid of them, and that will make this country great. And It is very, very similar to what Hitler promised, and it's not going to make this country great. It's just going to make this country worse.
Let me just go back to the moment when you approached that podium. I understand your intention when you're walking up there. I understand you expected that your act of what you say was civil disobedience was going to land you with the police coming to you and being handcuffed. You stopped before you actually reached that podium. But what has been the response to your action?
Overwhelmingly positive. I've had a lot of people reach out and say, you know, thank you for standing up. Thank you for taking a stand. And I've had a lot of people, and I believe this as well, saying, I wish my elected officials were doing the same. And I have a message for our elected officials, particularly our Democratic elected officials, is that I've done my part.
Toxic, good evening.
To do it. Now it's your turn, because you are the people that we elected, and you are the people that need to step up and stop this madness, because we have a man who put a crown on his head. And I can't think of anything more fundamentally un-American than a president wearing a crown. That goes against everything this country stands for.
Chris Kluwe, thank you so much for joining tonight.
Thank you for having me.
She was kind of adversarial, I guess. Then right at the end, thanks for having me. You watched Titanic for the first. I don't even think I've ever watched it all the way through. When I was like, because it came out when I was in 8th grade, so I basically just wanted to see tits. I think I fast forwarded until I got to tits. Because I thought, what's her name was hot.
A titty slap!
Come on now.
I would probably appreciate it a lot more now, especially because I'm a big Leonardo DiCaprio fan. But like, I was in 8th grade when it came out. One, it was oversaturation. It was fucking everywhere. That Celine Dion song. And then, like, it was just, you know, I was too cool for Titanic in 8th grade. So, and was really into Kate Winslet. Trump was apparently into a woman that they referred to as a nutter. I think, okay, so this is the woman that hooked him up with Laura Loomer, but this was an aide. Secret Service deemed a nutter, a danger to herself and the president. Along the campaign trail in 2024, 78-year-old Donald Trump proved he's still got a sex scandal or two left in him. Beginning in September, rumors swirled daily about him and his white nationalist maybe situationship with 31-year-old Laura Loomer. Whatever did or didn't go down between those two, it would seem they weren't exclusive, according to new excerpts from Michael Wolff's forthcoming book. Oh my God! This is that same guy, like Trump. Mox, good evening. Trump invites him, like they're friends. And Trump invites him to write a book. He writes a book, then Trump denounces it, says he's a liar, and then he goes and he interviews Trump again, and he writes another book. This happened like 4 times now. Something very odd was and or is going on with Trump and his 34-year-old aide, Natalie Harp, who remains his devoted aide today. Harp, a former talking head on the far-right One American News channel, who joined Trump's campaign in 2022, developed such a strong obsession with the president that Secret Service agents deemed her a potential danger to herself as well as to the president. At one point in the summer of 2023, Harp slept in the women's locker room of a country club just to be closer to Trump. Harp initially joined the campaign as essentially Trump's glorified bagman, or as Wolf put it, his fetch-it girl. Whatever he needed, she provided. She came to be known as the human printer because she carried with her a small portable printer to print anything and everything for Trump so that his old man eyes wouldn't have to look at a screen. Menial as that labor might sound, this almost unilateral power over what information Trump would and wouldn't see rendered Harp a significant gatekeeper. This is according to Wolf. In the papers Harp provided for Trump, she often included intimate, adoring letters that increasingly concerned not just Secret Service but top Trump staffers. At different points she wrote to him, "You are all that matters to me. I don't ever want to let you down. I want to bring you joy, to feel like we can get through a day without ever having to talk work." Ew. In November, the New York Times reported that Harp previously told Trump he is her guardian and protector in this life, and she loves that they're able to talk about everything and nothing. Do we have a pic of her? What's this woman look like?
These scientists.
How many people are watching?
Can we tell how many, Dan? How many people are watching?
She's talking about how great San Francisco was before she destroyed it. A lot of talk about childhood. We've got to get to the border, inflation, and crime.
He's not proposing a single policy, not one policy. Ours' biography won't lower your prices at the grocery store. Or at the pub.
Out there putting veterans out on the street, so.
33,000 homeless veterans. Country, okay, say these out. The things of which she complains. The things of which she complains.
So this is the person actually typing his tweets.
Donald Trump is an unserious man.
Oh.
Or truths.
You hear that, folks? It's great, right? Ready? These prosecutions were all started by her and Biden against their political opponents. Me. Get that out right away.
We have caravans heading to the border, people showing up to the border with Biden-Harris t-shirts. Everything we have of people swarming the border.
She paid bail for rioters in the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
She paid and raised bail. She paid bail to get the violent rioters in Minnesota out of jail.
So anyway, that's her.
Put it in there. Put it right in with the stuff, right?
With that post, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
You could do it either that or separate.
Save more lives. Lying about
Concubine.
25.
A woman who lives with a man that has lower status than his wife or wives.
So do all Democrats that I have absolutely nothing to do with.
She says we all know what a second term will look like. We can say yes.
I already forgot what her name was. Natalie Harp. Natalie Harp. Content warning. You got some Elon coming at you. And he's doing some ableism. Elon Musk hits astronaut with shocking slur after being slammed over a lie. Elon Musk called a Danish astronaut fully slur in an argument on the billionaire's social media platform. Musk used the term, which many in the disabled community consider a slur, as an insult against Andres Mogensen, a European Space Agency astronaut who in 2023 piloted a mission for Musk's SpaceX. Early on Thursday, Mogensen rebuked Musk for claiming that the two NASA astronauts currently stranded in space were left there for political reasons. What a lie, Mogensen, 48, wrote on his X account, and from someone who complains about lack of honesty from the mainstream media. Musk did not take well to the criticism. You are fully Arsler. The world's richest man fired back. SpaceX could have brought them back several months ago. I offered this directly in all caps to the Biden administration and they refused. Return was pushed back for political reasons. Idiot. In his response, Mogensen took the high ground but doubled down on his criticism of Musk's original claim, which the two astronauts in question, Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore, who have been in space for 8 months, have themselves rejected. Is this the interview? I think it links to the interview here somewhere. Musk and President Donald Trump have both repeatedly blamed the Biden administration for not bringing the astronauts back sooner after their return home from the International Space Station was delayed by issues with the spacecraft. In an interview with CNN last week, the astronauts challenged this narrative. I don't think we have a link to it. We don't feel abandoned. We don't feel stuck. We don't feel stranded. I understand why others may think that. We come prepared. We come committed, according to Wilmore, she said from the ISS. He said. NASA announced in December that Williams and Wilmore would begin their return to Earth on March 12th. I do not think Luigi... Look, I don't think Luigi is going to get convicted. Oh, I don't have the picture on my computer. I put it in the Discord. He's given like the sexiest fucking look. Like, I don't know how he does it. Elon is apparently getting on to a congressperson for calling him a dick. Comedy is apparently illegal with Elon. Dem congressman who shared Elon Musk dick pic hits back at Trump DOJ. The Representative Robert Garcia slammed the department's dangerous encroachment on freedom of speech. Representative Robert Garcia hit back at threats from the Department of Justice and criticized the agency for trying to silence lawmakers speaking out about Elon Musk. Earlier this week, Garcia received a letter from the DOJ regarding comments he'd made on CNN about opposing Musk's takeover of the federal government. What the American public wants is for us to bring actual weapons to this bar fight. This is an actual fight for democracy, Garcia said. Ed Martin, the intern U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, had responded as if the California Democrat might have made an actual threat on the Doge Czar's life. A recent episode of the iHip News podcast, Garcia wasn't buying it. Do we have the clip? Apparently not. We as members of Congress should have the right to oppose an administration that we disagree with, Garcia said during the Thursday episode. It's important for folks to be able to know that Democrats need to be in a fight. This is a fight that we're in for our very democracy. And the fact that the Trump DOJ now wants to silence members of Congress because we're actually willing to take on Elon Musk is quite dangerous. On the podcast, Garcia insisted he hadn't used fighting words, that the government was attempting to silence his dissent. Oh shit, did we actually have a clip? Would have been better than me reading it. Yeah,
absolutely right. I mean, this is really just incredibly disturbing. Should be disturbing for any American. Obviously, we as members of Congress should have the right to oppose an administration that we disagree with. Earlier that day, I had been in the very first Doge subcommittee meeting with calling it like it is. It's important for folks to be able to know that Democrats need to be in a fight. This is a fight that we are in for our very democracy. And the fact that the Trump department's DOJ now wants to silence members of Congress because we actually are willing to take on Elon Musk is quite dangerous. And I think that's something that we're really, really concerned about, that the Department of Justice now has essentially said that we cannot use metaphors, that we cannot use figures of speech, that we cannot talk about actually fighting the policies of the Trump administration. And if we do so, we're going to face prosecution. So incredibly disturbing, but we're not going to be silenced. We've got to push back. And this is a moment for us to I think, be really tough and aggressive.
For calling a picture of Elon Musk a dick pic. The congressman is not the only person being threatened by Elon Musk. Threatening Elon Musk. Oh, I fucked that up. Hold on. The congressman wasn't actually threatening Elon Musk. However, one could make the argument that this man did. However, he's arguing it's well within his freedom of speech.
News today, the Southern Indiana man arrested for threatening Elon Musk posted on X that he was going to bomb his house. David Cherry pleaded not guilty and was released from jail after posting a $2,500 bond. Wave News reporter Mark Stevens says that his lawyer plans to fight the case on the First Amendment grounds.
Yeah, the First Amendment protects speech, but whether Cherry's political speech crossed the line will be for a court to decide.
I think there's no question that one of the elements will be concerning political speech. And political speech has kind of the highest place in our traditional hierarchy of what's allowed. And there's no question that what the state says may have happened would be political speech. So
Defense attorney Bart Beteau says David Cherry's X post will have to be judged based on the First Amendment.
what they say he did was just made some statements. So whenever that's the case, that's the whole criminal charge, and the First Amendment is always the most important fact.
Texas law enforcement forwarded 4 of Cherry's posts replying to Elon Musk after presumably receiving them from X, which is based in Texas. Only 2 of those posts led to the intimidation charges. Cherry posted, "I am going to plant a bomb in Elon Musk's house on February 16th, and you're robbing the American people. We will gut you and parade your corpse through the streets on the 3rd.
That's pretty based.
Do not show what Musk had posted that Cherry was replying to. State police tracked Cherry to his job at Batteries Plus in Clarksville after pinging his phone and arrested him.
You have a no greater right to possess surface-to-air missiles under the Second Amendment than you do to make true threats under the First. So every constitutional guarantee, and that's certainly an oath that we take to uphold those, but they all have certain limitations.
Cherry told police he was just trying to be edgy. He runs a side business selling anti-government patches and T-shirts, and while there is currently confusion about Musk's actual role within the government, Schock says he's relying on federal cases where the government says Musk is an employee.
There are affidavits that we have from the White House alleging that he is.
Cherry's trial has been set for August. His family was in court for his initial hearing. They politely declined to speak with me about the case.
Pussies.
Wave News.
All right, thank you, Mark.
When he was a teenager.
Uh-oh, do I have a Smokey coming over here? No, anonymously. Elon is not getting Secret Service detail, though Trump would have the right to do that. No, you're not going to believe this shit. What they actually did was deputize Elon's private security force. They deputized Elon Musk's private security force. U.S. Marshal Service deputizes Musk's security team. The U.S. Marshal Service has deputized some of the tech billionaire Elon Musk's private security detail, giving them specific rights, fucking hill, and protections of federal law enforcement agents. Concerns for Musk's safety have ramped up in recent weeks as the Tesla CEO faces mounting scrutiny over carrying out President Trump's Department of Government Efficiency efforts at various federal agencies. So there you go. Oh, the threats on Elon, that was our transition. That was our transition into the crime stories for the night. So we're now officially in the crime section. So if you don't like mass shootings and death, the really graphic stories are about the next 4. Give us about 10-15 minutes maybe. Starting off top of the crime block. It's just another day.
Breaking news overnight and the urgent investigation. 1 officer killed and 5 people wounded in a hostage situation and shootout at a Pennsylvania hospital. ABC's Christian Cordero joins us now from York County. Good morning, Christian.
Good morning, Gio. We're told the officer killed had just turned 30 years old. He responded to this
we got another good cop
shooter situation that left 5 other victims with gunshot wounds. This morning, we're learning more about the officer that was killed in the line of fire during a hostage situation and shooting in a York, Pennsylvania hospital.
Reports of an officer down as well as the shooter down inside the hospital.
Andrew Duarte was killed in the intense firefight. His girlfriend tells ABC News he turned 30 last week and was the best person she knew.
He is to be commended for a life of service, albeit cut way too short.
Authorities say around 10:35 a.m. Saturday, the gunman, identified as Diogenes Archangel Ortiz, stormed into the intensive care unit.
Diogenes Archangel Ortiz? Diogenes Archangel Ortiz.
5 a.m. Saturday, the gunman, identified as Diogenes Archangel Ortiz, stormed into the intensive care unit at UPMC Hospital carrying a handgun.
I kind of dig the name.
That's where, according to officials, the suspect held several hospital staff members hostage.
This did appear to be targeted at the ICU.
Officials say the suspect fired his gun, striking a doctor, a nurse, and a custodian, all in stable condition. As police tried approaching him, they say the suspect emerged into the hallway with the hospital workers still held at gunpoint.
The individual was holding at gunpoint